5 minutes to pause. So one of my good yoga sisters, should I say, had asked a question about like how to pause, because she was having, I heard her say some issues with pausing, and pretty much what she meant was, not to react. So we always say to respond. And so what does that really mean? What it really means is to give yourself that space, and in the heat of the moment, like if someone has said something, done something unto you, or you have, or someone has an opposing position, viewpoints, opinions, or just said something, you're like, what in the world? And we've all probably have been there, whether we've done it or not. We just want to fire off if we get so heated because of what someone else has said. So if you've been listening to me long enough, and you can go back, and those were probably in the early days, and I've said it a little bit here and there, in that I would say sometimes with some individuals that we're interacting with, that we're dealing with, in that it's like, if we know someone, like say is a jerk, we know they're always, that's who they are. They haven't crossed over. They're not doing the internal work where they can work on the pause. But if we know individuals have that type of personality, we still have to work on ourselves. Is it right that they're like that? No, it's not right. But again, it's about trigger. I don't remember who the person was. Actually, she's a therapist herself. And I just, she happened to come across my page. I think it was I can't remember, was it Facebook? Definitely she is on Instagram, and she was talking about triggers. So that's pretty much all what it is that when others trigger us, we feel the need, it's not even the need. Sometimes it's automatic where we are reacting. And if anything, even if you don't overtly react, meaning saying something, doing something, internally you can feel the fire. It's like, oh, I gotta say something. And that's when it's like, oh, I gotta give them a piece of my mind. Oh, I don't believe in this. But the thing is, and this is something as a therapist that I tell the clients in that, and others as well, the more you practice something, the more it becomes a part of you. So a couple of things in that I'm going to say, this is going to be like more than a one part thing about pause, because it's so important. And so I'm going to say these couple of things, and then I'm going to say something else. I'm going to say the something else first. Let me do that first. I'm going to get it out of the way, because the reason I want to say this, because we don't really realize how much the pause is related to our own health. Just think about it. When you get heated about something, what it does to you. How much we want to blame the other person. And I'm not saying the other person is right, and especially when someone is really like doing the do. You know what I'm saying? They're saying something outrageous, or it's almost like other people, they're pushing our buttons. But we're the one who's holding the button. And so in saying that, when we don't do the pause, over time, it really is wear and tear on your body. It's wear and tear on your mind. It's wear and tear on your thoughts. It's wear and tear of your soul, which can impact you financially. Because what happens when there's constantly wear and tear of something? In that's when you end up with diseases and medical conditions, even with anxiety, and even with depression. And so in saying that, it is my duty, your duty, our duty to control that. Of course, it's easily said and done. It's like, oh, don't let nobody do that. it takes work. It takes a lot of work. And this is why self-care is so important. It is everywhere. And so, again, it is so important for you to pause for your own sake. And so, and to be honest, like I just said, it's not easily said than done. It does take some work, but the more you do, it's almost like the simple things, then it'll be easier for the harder work, which is a deep level of a deep dive when it comes to it. So, in saying all of that, some of the things that I had shared was that, and I'm going to list them here, and then in the next few days, I will dive a little deeper into it. But generally, and just to make sure I don't miss anything, I'm going to be kind of like reading just so that. But keep pause on top of mind. Repeat pause 5 times minimally 3 times a day, morning, midday, and evening. And one of the things by me, talking about self-care, being a self-care advocate, and just, of course, as a self-carepreneur, in that I'm more about sustaining yourself, maintaining the things that you need in order to live and in order to run your business. And so a lot of times throughout the day, you forget to breathe. You know what I'm saying? These things sound simple. Of course, you're like, oh, I'm breathing. No, you know what I mean. Pretty much taking that deep breath, or if you need to do the fire breathing. So the same thing with the pause, like literally throughout the day, just say pause, 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 pause. Just say it so that it can be embedded within you. It sounds simple, and we think, oh, we just need to pause when we need to. No. We need to practice the pause. So in order to get it embedded within you, you need to say it. And I would say it out loud. I'm even learning more so about the power. It's like we all hear like the power of your words, the power of your thoughts, but also in saying it out loud. And it's another way of, letting you know who you are and what you need, because that is how it becomes a part of you. And even though I didn't add this in it at the time when I suggested it, but on top of repeating it 5 times, write it out. And I would say write it out 55 times, you know what I mean? It's kind of like write it out, pause, so that you can remember and so that it can have a meaning for you. The other thing is that to make fun, to be silly, make it a game. And I'm going to dive, and again, as I said, I'm going to dive deeper within this. You're like, Sharon, well, what do you mean by that? But it just means is that just be silly with it for now. It's like when you see an opportunity where you can pause, it's like, oh yeah, let me pause. It's almost like freeze. Like, oh yeah, let me freeze. Let me do this. So pause. And actually when I just did that, it kind of reminded me, oh, what is it? A song. It's an old song. I think it was in the 90s. It could have been the 2000, early 2000. I can't remember. But anyway, there's a song. I'll see if I can find it and put it in there. And so let's just practice the pause. You know what I'm saying? And even though, I'm making light of this at the time, but this is how really any new behavior that you want, this is one way that you can allow it to be a part of your life. And I'm going to say this as a side note. And I want to say beginning, especially within the past 9 to 18 months, have really when they say to, renewing of your mind, this is how you renew your mind, renew your heart, renew your soul, renew your spirit. This is how you do it. So it's part of the renewing of your mind and meditating on the word or a word day and night. And it is so important. So again, make it fun, be silly with it, make it a game. The other thing is to identify when others can practice pause, whether it's seeing it in family, seeing it in friends, seeing it in your coworkers, seeing it in business partners, seeing it in those around you, whether you're watching TV, just all of those different things. Because the thing is, and this is, I kind of call it, it's just a human deficit, a human default. We can have the same issue as someone else, but sometimes we're not always able to identify it within ourselves, but someone else can see it clearly. So the same thing applies to us in that we can see something clearly in someone else. So we can be seeing others who can definitely use a pause, but they're not using it. So that's another way how you can identify it, because when you see it in others and then you can reflect and it's like, what times have I had where I didn't pause? And just to kind of give you an example of how it works, I can remember, I would say, when I was newer in the self-help thing, even though I've been a therapist for a while, but just when I was newer and learning different concepts. And this is when I had developed the concept, everyone needs healing from something and just don't know it. And I used to say that all the time, especially around my family and friends. And with one of my friends, she will always, actually she and her husband will always hear me say it. And I would say, at different times, especially when I see certain things, or she would tell me certain things. I say, yeah, everybody needs healing from something and don't even know it. And then she was telling me where she and her husband kind of going by almost making a game out of it. Again, where I was saying where you can see it in others. It's almost like when someone approaches you in a certain way, and you're like, what in the world is going on with this person? And then when you think about it, like, oh yeah. And then they could clearly see where others need healing from something and don't even know it. So it's the same thing with pause. You can see where someone can definitely use a pause. They can freeze and they don't even know it. And so that is how you can use that. And then the last step or phase, I would say, is when it comes to pausing, is recall an experience where you did not pause and then replay yourself pausing, meaning you identified a situation where you did not pause. You're like, I was reactive. You feel it in your body. You feel it, you see it, and hey, I got to say something. I got to do something, whatever that is. In that, you're going to reflect on that particular thing. And then what you're going to do, you're going to, again, recall that experience, but then you're going to replay it the way that you want it replayed, meaning with you pausing. Like, instead of you reacting, you're going to replay it in your mind as you are pausing. And then you see yourself, and then within this, you see yourself pausing, you feel yourself pausing, and you're telling yourself pausing. Remember how I said to repeat? That is why. And what I would say, when you're recalling that experience, I would suggest not only to just recall it in your mind, recall it, write it out. I would even say videotape it. That's probably really the best thing to do. Video yourself recalling the experience in and of itself. And then press stop. Depends on how you're recording it. Do that. And then replay it as if you had pause. So pretend like you had pause, with the situation that with the experience, or I'm about to say the event, but with the experience that you're recalling, replay that. So record that as well. And initially, you may not always record it on the first thing. That really just depends on you. Everybody is different. And just replay it. And then after you replay it, watch it. And then say, okay, can I pause here? And again, pausing is an internal thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not just you're stopping, you're intentionally stopping so that you can hear, so that you can understand, and so that those thoughts can pretty much get aligned so that you can have clarity, not just what you're going to say, but have clarity of what you are responding to, meaning and understanding. But if anything, one way of doing it, again, just take that breath. And people don't have to know that you breathe. You don't have to you're watching, you're like, Like inside your mind, you're like, what in the world? Because this is what I be saying inside my mind sometimes. Like, what in the world? Like, oh, okay, yeah. So again, when it comes to pausing, I'm going to say over time, it's life saving, because over time you have less wear and tear on your body. Because anytime that, certain fire we need, but we don't need chronic fire, especially in the negative way that gets us worked up. There's one thing to have fire to motivate. And sometimes, pausing can cause that. But for the most part, we end up worrying. We end up, thinking about it too much, regurgitating. Because that's the other thing. We're recalling the thing that we need to pause for. But that's why it's so important to replay it in the way where you are pausing and where you can take that breath where you don't get worked up. Because again, when it comes to triggers, I'll say this, and again, through my work as a therapist, but then also in my own, personal work and internal work, I'm like, ooh, we do need people. And you may have heard me recently say this, is that, we may not need people in the way that we think that we need, but even when it comes to triggers, we need people in that way too, because they're cues in which, or reminders, I need to work on this. Whether it's working on being more patient, working on articulating, what needs to be said, working on listening, working on understanding, working on, again, being calm, in and of itself. And again, none of this stuff is, easy, but it is necessary. And one thing I like to say, with the individual who had identified, who had acknowledged that they want to practice pause more and they need some help, that is one of the first pillars of self-care. That is awareness, being aware of what you need, and then asking for help. So also another pillar of self-care, in that taking action. And so all of us, even I, still need help in certain areas, and so definitely reach out to others when you need help. And you can also reach out to me. You can schedule yourself for a consult, so that we can kind of talk about what areas that you want help in, or you want more clarity in, or whatever that may be. And as I've said before, when it comes to self-care, and just as a reminder, when it comes to the 4 pillars of self-care plus 1, because I added something to it, in that the 4 pillars are self-awareness, which that is the biggest one. It's the insight, it's the reflection, it's all of those things. And then also sitting in silence, is another one as well. Sitting in silence, deep rest, as well as movement and action. And the last one is financial. And even in all of these are connected, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, it's going to impact us financially, either our ability to work, or in spending money, on our health. And we're going to be spending money on our health anyway. So you're going to spend money on healthy ways on the upfront or the back end, because of course, it's not, I always have to say this, it's not everything, because sometimes you could be doing all the good stuff and still, end up having medical challenges. But one thing that I will say is that there is a difference when you are doing the work of being healthy in your mind, in your body, in your spirit. And so definitely share this video for those of you who you believe can use the pause. And also make sure you like and subscribe so that you can get more tips of how to pause, how to be healthy, how to be well in every way when it comes to building up, building as well as sustaining healthy habits. Because if we do not have these healthy habits, and pause is a healthy habit, because if we do not have that, it can run havoc in our lives. So again, and if any of you want, an answer to something, I don't know everything, but I know a lot. And anything that I don't know, believe me, I know someone who knows it. You know what I'm saying? In and of itself. And so, if you want anything, particularly when it comes to, especially your mind, of being well in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, let it be. Ask the question, and I'll do a video on that in and of itself. And so, thank you for those who have joined me live. And I will definitely bring individuals on as well.